Hey, how's it going, guys? You know, there's something I want to talk about, and it's the idea that America is a capitalist country, right? For quite a while, I can't give you a time frame, maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 years. I don't know, man. I've been kind of shouting out loud to anybody that's willing to listen in my family, my wife's family, friends, coworkers. And I've been shouting out loud for a long time that America is not a capitalist country. And I know that there's going to be a lot, maybe a good number of people that disagree with me. Um, and there might be some, somebody somewhere that actually agrees with me. But I just want to break it down, right? Because I don't believe America is this capitalist free market country that everybody makes it out to seem. I actually think we are more of a hybrid nation where we are a percentage of capitalists, a percentage of socialists, and a percentage of communists with quite a bit of oligarchism, right? And so what I did was I was talking to Grok here, and I asked it. I was like, "Hey, Grok, can you tell me what percentage of America, our market is capitalist versus socialist to communist?" And it came back and it said it was like 85% capitalist, 5% socialist, and the numbers are pretty silly, right? And I was like, okay, let's go ahead and rerun this. And I said, now go ahead and apply the factors that currently exist in order to do business, such as licensing, permits, regulation, and everything that involves actually being able to do business. Because, as an example, let's say I wanted to open a hot dog stand, right? I can't just get a hot dog cart, buy some hot dogs at Costco, some bread at Costco, and go to any random corner and sell a hot dog. Can't do that. It doesn't exist. In a free capital market, I can, right? In a free capital market, I can easily just make some burritos, make some tacos, make some empanadas, some tamales, make whatever I want, make a blanket, go out into a corner and just sell it. And if people want to buy it, they buy it. That's actual free market capitalism. It's the free exchange of goods and services. If you don't believe me, just look it up. That's the actual definition. Um, in America, we don't have that. That doesn't exist. Every single thing that we do that's business related requires government permission. And if it requires government permission, that is actually the opposite of capitalism. That is a form of either socialism, communism, and any other ism that's out there that you might want to assign it, but it's not capitalism because, one more time, the definition of capitalism is the free exchange of goods and services between individuals. If you have something that I want and I have something you want, we can barter. That's free capital market, free capitalist markets, right? Sorry, I'm tongue twisting myself. Um, we don't have that. Everything we do requires government permission. Everything. If we're going to buy a car, we have to go through a dealership or we have to do a private citizen sale. And guess what happens? We have to go to the DMV. We have to pay, sales tax on it, right? Sales tax is not free market capitalism at all, right? That's the government inserting itself in the middle. So as soon as government inserts itself in the middle of something, it automatically becomes anti-capitalist. That becomes something else that's not capitalist. So once you sell a car, you have to do a transfer of title. You have to go and pay the registration fees. You have to pay the sales tax on it. Even though it's A to B, transaction. If I want to sell a car to my mom or my mom wants to sell me a car, right? And I give her excuse me real fast. Sorry about that, guys. So one more time, if I'm gonna do a transaction, an A and B transaction, right? My mom's gonna sell me her car for $1,000. Well, guess what? I have we have to pay sales tax on that, and then my mom has to pay profit tax on that, right? So if she cleared a profit, she has to pay taxes on that profit, which is currently what capital gains is at 20 something percent, 30%. So if both of us have to pay taxes on a single transaction, but both of us have to pay taxes, I have to pay a sales tax, and then my mom has to pay a capital gains tax on whatever she profited from that sale. That's not free market capitalism. That is something completely different. That is either a form of socialism or a form of communism. And I tend to lean more towards the communism type, right? Because one more time, if you if you own something, but anytime you sell it, the government takes a cut, then that means it was never yours to begin with. That means that it was actually government property. And what you're doing is you're giving the privilege to use it for the time being until you want to offload it and try to recoup some of that money. If you're about to purchase something, excuse me one more time. Sorry about that again. So I hope you understand what I'm getting at, right? Anytime the government inserts itself into a and B transaction, which is every transaction is an A and B transaction, right? If I go to Walmart and I purchase some groceries, that's an A and B transaction. But I have to pay sales tax. So that's the government inserting itself. And then we're not even going to get into the intricacies of everything that Walmart has to go through to just conduct business, because that's a beast of itself, right? You're talking about madness on what needs to be done in order for Walmart to open a new Walmart. Man, you got to go through OSHA. You got to go through all types of madness. Then you got to, since they do a lot of their ordering from other countries, they got to go through tariffs, custom, Homeland Security, Customs and Border. You're talking about, involving other governments and their intricacies of how they do business. Complete wild beast, right? And so I'm just keeping it simple, and I'm talking about the everyday consumer, such as myself, and how we are impacted. And to be honest, if we were to involve that intricacy that businesses have to go through to just set up business and set up shop, man, I am convinced that we are anything but a capitalist country. We are not a capitalist country at all. We are a straight socialist, communist type of country, with maybe the greater work of it being an oligarch system, which is very few people run everything, right? And you can look throughout the America right now and be like, well, Jeff Bezos runs a lot of the shipping stuff. Elon Musk runs a lot of the technology stuff. You have the Fords. You have you understand. You understand what I'm getting. Like, we have people that control large sectors of industry, and they're worth hundreds of billions of dollars, and even in some cases, they're getting close to $1 trillion in net worth value, right? In a true capitalist system, those people would never be able to exist because there would be too much competition. In a true capitalist system, billionaires, millionaires would be non-existent. If maybe, some millionaires, quite a few millionaires, but there would be so much competition that the idea that any few people can get so much wealth would just be non-existent. It just wouldn't be able to happen. You wouldn't have one Walmart, one Target, one Kroger's, one Vaughn's. You would have thousands and thousands and thousands of different types of supermarkets. You would. You wouldn't be able to just create 1,000 Walmarts across the United States, because you would create 200, and by the time you got to 50, you would have so many people copying your idea and recreating what you're doing and doing it in a faster, more mainstream level, that the competition would be wild. You would have names of grocery stores that you've never even heard of all over the place. But we don't. We have Walmart and Target and Kroger, right? And in Texas you have HEB. But how are these companies able to become so dominant? Well, the reason they're able to become so dominant is because of government intervention, because of those permits, those licensings. They make it so rigorous and so difficult to establish or build yourself that it's not it's not viable for the majority of small business owners, or even for somebody who wants to become a small business owner. The hoops that you have to go through and jump through, it's outlandish, man. And so what I did was I was talking to Grok, and I was like, hey Grok, break this down for me, right? And then let me say this. What was the last question? Give me 1 second. I'm looking it up. Okay. So I was like, my original question is, I want you to run this again, but take into consideration that our so-called capitalist market requires government permission through permits, licensing, registration, and fees to be paid prior to conducting any sort of business. And it did so, right? And then I said, okay, well, I'll take that into consideration. As of right now, we're about 70% capitalist, 25% socialist, 5% communist. And then I said, okay, well, wouldn't you agree that permitting, licensing, regulation, and assignment of fees in order to conduct business is completely anti-capitalist? And it agreed with me. It said, yes. I go, well, that's why I'm asking you to assign percentages by taking in all considerations that include all these internal and external factors. And so it did. And it came back and I was like, okay, taking into consideration, we are about 65% capitalist, 30% socialist, 5% communist. And then I said, now I want you to rerun the calculation and insert banking pressures such as stimulus, monetary policy, the government propping up the stock market through purchasing stocks, bonds, and through government contracts. Okay? And it went and it did its thing, its little... And it returned, it goes, based on this, America is about 55% capitalist. The U.S. retains a capitalist core. Private ownership dominates markets, set most prices, and profit motives drive innovation. Blah, 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 blah. But it came back at 55% capitalist, 40% socialist, 5% communist. Just think about that. Think about that. And so at the end of the day, America's 55% capitalist, and we're not even taking every factor in. We're just taking the baseline of what it requires that we know of as people looking from the outside in, right? Based on just what we see, it's 55% capitalist, 40% socialist, 5% communist. We are a 50-50 country. A 50-50 country. 50% capitalist, 50% ist. So then I went to Grok and I said, okay, great. Now do the same comparison to America 25 years ago. The exact same comparison, taking all the factors that we just said. It said 25 years ago, based on the same calculation, every consideration that I put forth, it said America was 75% capitalist, 20% socialist, 5% communist. And I guarantee you, if I said, now do it 50 years ago, you know what's going to happen, guys? America would go from 75 to 80 to 85% capitalist to 15% socialist. Here's what I'm getting at. Here's the grand scheme of things that I'm getting at, right? Nicotine. Yesterday, we had a no Kings protest. And then with these protests, you had the Democrat socialists out there, a large sector of the Democrat socialists. And then you had a lot of these communist groups that are pushing for communism and socialism and whatnot. And these people are really angry and really upset. And they're like, we need this because life is so unfair. You have the uber rich, you have, the people at bottom, the people at the way top, and the middle is getting gut. Think about that very last two sentences that I just said. You have uber rich, you have very poor, and then the middle is getting gutted. That's socialism, guys. That's socialism. That's communism. We are not a capitalist country anymore. We're not. We're a hybrid. We are a completely hybrid country. And what these people are protesting about and what they're so upset about is the fact that our country is actually shifting in the direction that they want. The very thing that they are asking and calling for is the very thing they've been getting for over 25, 50 years, and even so forth. And the more it trends in that direction, the more upset they get, the more unequal things get. What these people want isn't socialism. They want the idea of socialism. They want the theory of socialism. But in practice, what we have today is socialism. What we have today is communism. And they don't like it. They hate it. Just think about that. They are complaining because they are receiving more of what they want than ever before. And they're complaining about it. They are upset that they are getting what they're asking for, but they're still living in a world of theory. They're living in a world of textbooks. It's like somebody who goes to school for HVAC, right? They go to school for HVAC. They learn how to do HVAC in a book. And they get to play with HVAC in a controlled, simulated environment. A perfect setup environment in a temp controlled room with all the perfect tools that they need, with all the perfect fittings that fit the perfect tools. Everything's controlled and it's perfect. But then these individuals graduate from these HVAC schools and then they go to the real world and get a job as an AC man, for whatever company. And then they go to their first job. And then they're having to climb in an attic where there's 2 foot of clearance. It's dark as fuck. It's hot or extremely cold. It's got fiberglass everywhere. It's got 18-inch, ducking everywhere. And they have to crawl through the spider webs. They have to wear, a flashlight on their forehead just to see. They're sweating their ass off. They're filthy. They're itching from the fiberglass getting in their clothes. And it's nothing like the textbook said. It's nothing like the controlled environment that they learned to fix ACs in was. You understand? In theory, in a book, anything can be made to be desirable. Everything can be made to be desirable. It's the way it works because a book is nothing but theory. It's a bunch of people who have never really done it, or if they have done it, they're trying to describe it in a way that's, I guess, digestible, right? Because they got to sell a book. But if they were ever to put all these real world scenarios in there, how many people would be turned off from HVAC? How many people would be turned off from being an electrician or plumber or working in the sewage system? In theory, everything is desirable. Everything everything could be desirable in theory. But when things are practiced in the real world, the theory goes out the door, the book goes out the door. When I first started my job in IT, you had the things you learned in certification, and then when you actually start doing IT, everything you learn, you realize was a complete waste of time. That the certification itself was a complete waste of time. Because it's all theory. It's all perfect world environment. It's in the fact that IT is a glove that fits on every hand. But when you start practicing IT, you quickly learn that every company has its own glove. It has its own hand. And they customize that glove to fit the hand of the company. They have their own operating system. They run their own applications. They run their own servers. Everything is ran independently from that you learn through your certification process. They have their own commands. They have their own scripts. Everything is unique to that company. And the only exceptions are smaller companies that just run everything directly through a simple Windows operating system that's not tailor-made for that organization. But even then, when you start doing a lot of these, trying to make third-party hardware work with internal hardware, and then you have to get into the whole driver system and making things work together, it's nothing like the books. It's nothing like the certification process. All that is just a complete fucking waste of time. The people that are out there protesting, they're asking more. They're asking for more of what they are already experiencing, but they don't like it. But they haven't been able to put two and two together and realize they are actually getting exactly what they're asking for. Everything they're screaming, everything they're demanding, they are already getting it. They just don't like how it feels. They don't like the experience. And what they're doing is they're equating that to capitalism when it's not capitalism. It's the very thing they're asking for, which is socialism, which is communism. Most people would listen to this and be like, no, that's absurd. America is a capitalist country. And I ask you, where? Where? Can you point out this capitalism? Where? Where can if I want to have a fucking garage sale, guys, I can't even just do a garage sale. I mean, I can, but I risk getting a citation. If I want to do a garage sale, I got to go to the city and get a permit to do a garage sale. And then technically, on everything I sell, I'm supposed to report profit taxes. So if I sell $200 of stuff, I'm supposed to pay taxes on that $200 worth of stuff I sold. And not doing so means I'm evading taxes. Where is this capitalism that people are talking about? Where? One more time, in a capitalist country, with the definition of capitalism being the free exchange of goods and services between two or more individuals. What is free about having to get a permit for permission to sell your own shit on your yard? That's not free. What is free about having to pay capital gains taxes on the money you made on the shit that you just sold that you had for 10 years? That's not capitalism. So if anybody can just point out this capitalism in America that people talk about, I would love it. But nothing in America is free. You can't do a free exchange of shit because this is not a capitalist country. We are a controlled economy. We are China, and China is us. The difference is China has learned to do it better than us, which is why they're ascending faster than we are. And so I encourage you, I encourage anybody, where is this capitalism? Where is it? Why can't I open a hot dog stand and just sell fucking hot dogs? Why can't I just take out bags and bags of clothes and just sell it on my front yard? Why do I have to get permission and pay a fee to the state, the government, to do basic things and do a simple A to B transaction? There, every year it seems like there's another video coming out of some kid opening up a lemonade stand. And then the cops show up and then they shut it down. Why? Because the kid didn't go to City Hall and get a permit. And then that kid was evading taxes for not paying profit on the $5 that they made. And keep in mind, if they made $5, 20-30% of that's $1.50. So they only make $3.50 before cost. That's not capitalism, guys. We do not live in a capitalist country. And the very thing that people are screaming and begging for is the very thing that they're getting. But they're not receiving it the way that they thought they were going to receive it. Their understanding of what they're asking for is theory. It's book. But every single time in practice, and we know this for a fact because we can look throughout history, we can look in current day at every single socialist communist country. We can look through history, and every single time it's practiced, this is how it's practiced. So that's how we know. That's how we know for a fact this is a socialist communist country. Because this is how it always happens. And so what I'm saying is these people that are out protesting, these Democrat National Socialists, these communists, what I'm saying is they really don't want more of it. What they want is they want us to go from 50% capitalist back to 75, 80% capitalist with a sprinkle of socialism. That's really what they want. And what their argument and their anger is actually towards the socialization of America, the communization of America. They have a problem with that. They just haven't come to realize that what they're asking for is what they're getting, but they're just getting it in the real world way. Because they were prepared to receive it as the book said, as the pamphlet said they would. But that's not the real world. It'll never be the real world. And any one of you that have professional certifications, you know the book never matches reality. The pamphlet never matches reality. They have nothing to do with each other. You have to go through one to get to the next. Certifications. If I want to be an AC man, guess what? I have to get certified. How the fuck is that capitalism? How is that capitalism? And I know some of you are going to be like, oh, well, you got to have some knowledge to do it. Well, guess what? How about I just become an apprentice? My wife's friend, she does hair and nails. She has to get a license to be an esthetician or whatever the fuck weird name they come up with it is. Hair and nails. You got to get a license to practice. Hair and nails. Just think about that, guys. I do love this country, man. And I fight hard for this country. I try to open as many eyes as I can for this country because my kids are born in this country. They were born in this country. I'm raising them in this country. And when I die, they will still be in this country. And so I need this country to get better for them. And so when I say this, I'm not trying to demean our country. I'm not trying to talk about how horrible, how bad it is. What I'm trying to do is shed a light and open more eyes, because a lot of people are getting exactly what they're asking for, and they don't like it. And instead of realizing they're getting exactly what they wanted, they're doubling down because they don't realize they're getting exactly what they're asking for. And what I'm saying is, guys, what you're asking for is exactly what you're getting. You just don't like the way it's being given. But this is the way it is. This is the way it always is. This is the way it is throughout all of history. And we can look right now at hundreds of examples throughout the world. And this is the way it is every single time in practice. So maybe stop asking for more of this and ask for us to go back to the system that was working, where we didn't have people worth $50, $100 billion, where $1 million was considered a lot of money. Guess what, man? People laugh at $1 million today. Oh, you're only worth $1 million. And granted, I'm not worth $1 million. I would love to be worth $1 million. I would love to have multiple millions, more than that. But the people with money, they pee on $1 million. But there was a time where that was something to be held up as a trophy. Now, if you're not a billionaire, you're a fucking sloth. We do need to get this correct. We need to fix this. And I've been saying this for years, man. We are not a capitalist country. We haven't been in a long time. And I don't know if we ever were. And when I say that, what I mean is pure 100% capitalist. I don't think we ever were. I don't think we ever were a pure capitalist country. I think we were always majority, vast majority, super majority capitalists, but with a sprinkle of everything else. But as the years go and and time pass, we become less capitalist and more socialist, more communist, more oligarch. And now we're transitioning. We're transitioning to the age of technocrats. And the only thing that could prevent a complete domination of these technocrats is by reverting back to a capitalist state. If you really want to prevent very, very few people controlling everything through technology, you have to revert back to some form of capitalist state where there's intense competition amongst millions of people. Because right now, the competition is between a handful of people. And one of two of them are going to win. The one that does win is going to be a super majority owner. Second place will be the second majority owner, and everybody else is going to be their underlings. And the only thing that can stop that, guys, is intense competition, where there's so much competition that it's almost impossible for one person to take a supermajority. Because every day, every week, every month, there will be new competition that comes out to undercut them. I feel bad for these people, man. I do. I understand what their plight is. I understand what they're asking for. I understand what they want. Like, I understand it. And I hope one day that they wake up and they realize they are getting everything they're asking for. But they were hoping that it was going to be given in theory. They were hoping that it was going to be given to them the way in a textbook laid it out for them. But real world, man, it comes for everybody. I talked a long time ago about this chase for utopia. And the idea is a beautiful idea. But in reality, it can never happen. It will never happen. Because human beings are unique. Just think about it. In the jungle, you have lions. Let's just focus on lions. Lions have tribes. They look the same. They are the same. You can't tell one king lion from the next. Maybe one mane is a little bit bigger or nicer. But they create these tribes. And even though they are the exact same species, they will kill each other if they step on each other's territory. They will eat each other's children. You understand? Like, this is just the way of life. It is hard programmed into our DNA, and that's how it should be, because we are unique individuals. And as much as I would love for every atrocity to come to an end, in order for that to happen, you would have to give up all individualism. You would have to give up your entire identity to a single entity and follow as sheep. And never, ever, ever have a single unique thought. To me, that is more terrifying than any state we can live in as individuals. The idea that we are all subject to this totalitarian system where we must eat, think, live, breathe, do as one person says. As humans say. It's different if God floated down, with the Bible and the Ten Commandments and all. That's different. Because those are just guidelines. Right? That's a structure to live your life by. It's saying, hey, live your life, but understand stealing is bad. Killing somebody, unjust murder is bad. Adultery is bad. Those are guidelines. It's telling you what to avoid. But imagine you wake up, you're told when to wake up, how to wake up, when to go to sleep, what to eat. You're served the same thing as everybody else. Can't leave this premise without permission. And if you're given permission, you have, a 30-minute time span to get back. Like, where everything is controlled. I don't want to live in that world. I like the world I live in right now. And yeah, this road comes with dangers. But I accept those dangers in place of my freedom. I would rather have some uncertainty and live a life that's free than have zero uncertainty in a life and live a life that's unfree. It's not worth it to me, man. I think I said that right. I think you got it. We need to go back to being a more pure capitalist country. Because right now we're not. We're a hybrid. And I think 50% is being too generous. I actually think it's more like 35, 40%. And one more time, I was just pushing Grok to certain layers. Okay, now take into this account. And I'm sure I can keep going and eventually wind up at a 30, 35%, right? We need to go back to a free market system, or as much of a free market system as possible. Because the more we trend towards socialism, communism, the more angry people are becoming because of inequality. Well, guess what, guys? Look at any communist, look at any socialist state. It's completely unequal. Because in practice, that's how it's designed. In book, well, the book is designed to get you to believe something else that's not in practice. That's all I got to say, man. Thank you for your time. You know, I know I probably started this video out a little sluggish because this one's deep, man. This is a deep conversation right now. And I'm sure if anybody listens to this, maybe nobody, it's okay. I'm okay talking to myself. There's going to be a lot of naysayers that are like, nah, he's crazy. But if somebody really, really thinks about it and dives into it themselves, you're going to come across and you're going to realize I am correct. We are not a capitalist country anymore. We haven't been for a very long time. And I hope we can change that. I hope we can go back to more of how it was. And I think the sooner we can do that, the better things can get for everybody. But the more we trend towards socialism, communism, the worse it's going to get. Because there's nothing down that rabbit hole that we haven't seen throughout history. We know how that story ends. We see it today in modern day, how that story ends. And it's not a pretty story. Thank you for your time, man.